We have A Kigs, Aaron Kigler. Go on, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me here, MetaFest. Very excited.
So
Um,
we're talking about carbon blocks. Is that right?
we are talking about carbon blocks. That is correct. Should I hop into it? You have
Please introduce yourself. Let people know a little bit about who you are, and then, yeah, feel free to jump into it. And if you want, I'll be here for any questions or follow up conversation.
perfect. Thanks, Penguin. Hey guys, my name is Aaron Kigler. I'm here from Carbon Blocks. I This project started about like 4 months ago when my friend Tommy came to me and he's trying to build Revesture, and they're trying to offset carbon by creating carbon NFT marketplace. And we were kind of talking and we realized that there really isn't strong carbon on chain. And so I started doing a bunch of research and seeing that just the flaws in the carbon market in general, the non-transparency, just there's a whole host of things that need to kind of come together and that Web3 offers that other systems don't technically offer. And a lot of that has to do again with the non-transparency, but also just the inability to actually access these markets and people not to understand that all this different carbon has different value. It's a different system. Different people are working on different projects, which are worth different amounts. And so we looked at the current methods, which were based on batching, like the toucan system, where you're taking all these different years of carbon and you're throwing them together, and taking all these different projects and throwing them together. And we were wondering how that creates this kind of transparency that we're looking for in the carbon markets, when in reality, like it's creating more of a diluted market that just ultimately bundles everything together and hides everything behind the financial component. Um, so through this discussions and through meeting a few through people in the space, we came out with the idea of carbon blocks, and I'll share my screen here. Show. I'm not sure. Penguin, can people see this website?
Yes.
Great. So yeah, so the idea is to create an on-chain Web3 carbon economy, that people can create different tools to access carbon and build on top of. But the ultimate goal is that you're trying to create as transparent a market as possible. We're right now we're not focused on bundling. We're actually focusing on like unbundling, and like low liquidity ranges for carbon. um, we are in talks with a company called Patch, and we are helping to create a bridge for their system that will ultimately bring this carbon on chain. And we have a protocol design here that has an order flow. An order would come in, you would ping a Chainlink API to bring the data on. If it failed, you would return the funds. If there was a success, you would create an IPFS data link that attaches to the certificate. And you would mint an ERC20 token that was representative of the tons of carbon that this piece of data represent. Like, yeah, the carbon that was represented here from this certificate. That's kind of our regular order flow, and then we have an offset system that we're designing. And the offset system continues from the ERC20 token. You would remove that token, of course. You would create a pending offset NFT, and then there would be a mint claim. And the reason why there's a separation between the pending offset and the mint claim is that um, it's you have to verify the work that's actually done. A lot of the work for these biochar systems, or for um, kelp, or just different projects that are trying to remove carbon, it doesn't happen in real time like a lot of software tech. And in order to meet the compliance of offsetting in the correct manner, we decided to go with a two-step method, and we're working on developing this right now. Um, kind of there's a bunch of different things that we're focusing on, and we're also interested in natural asset capital. We think that just like having nature in general is extremely important, and that there's no reason we shouldn't get the funds to the right people. This isn't just about carbon. There's this whole ecosystem out there that is really starting to collapse, and the root of the issue is carbon, and that's what we chose to focus on our as our first goal. But ultimately, the entire just I come from a bioengineering background, and I spent a long time in plants and studying botany, and just seeing these large corporations just kind of wreck our ecosystems just to get a little bit more money and produce a little bit more of a petroleum product. And that really scares me. And a lot of it has to do with this monetary inflow to the systems that need the money. So there's no reason that we can't design a new system, especially with like using Web3, which is becoming just like just being coming ingrained into our ecosystem of the internet and everything, to provide these products to people, and get people who need the funds to do a forest regeneration project or to do just anything that essentially doesn't release carbon, because that's really the fear here, which is causing ocean acidification and a bunch of host of issues. um, just to get them the funds they need. So this is our first step into the space, and we're very excited to be here. And yeah, that's kind of the general overview of the project. If anyone has any questions, yeah, or Penguin.
Yeah, so I had a question about the two-step process, removing carbon, and the verification process, and kind of the regulation and how that's all checked. I'm sure is definitely a mystery to a lot of people. Can you tell us a little bit more about like what goes into um, removing the carbon after someone's burned the token?
Yes. So currently we're working with Patch to build a bridge, and they have to fulfill their certificates to verify that the carbon actually got offset. And the big thing here is that we're interested in future vintages. We're not interested in carbon that happened in 2012 that people removed in 2009. So if someone were to buy one of these tokens that was, let's say in 2025, you wouldn't be able to offset that immediately because that didn't happen yet. So we want to allow people the ability to claim offsetting in the future, before the fulfillment of the action is actually performed. And that's why, because it it shows that you're committed to offsetting. And but the actual fulfillment of the action hasn't occurred. So because we're interested in that, and other players in the field are more interested in carbon that has already been offset in the past. Like Flow Carbon's developing something that's like 2017 to 2022, and that works because the carbon has already been removed. But the stuff that's already happened, like we're just interested in future vintages, and that's why we designed it that way. And if that
And
needs more clarification, please let me know.
yeah, so how is there more carbon that's removed this way because we're incentivizing people to remove it rather than kind of already having the carbon that we currently have? Is or what's kind of the ratio of carbon offsets by going forward rather than backwards? Are they about the same?
I don't know the exact numbers on something like that. And it's really hard to clarify just because the science and the money are so disconnected right now. And that's really the transparency that I'm ultimately trying to work on. Um, is actually solving that question, like how much of this funds will actually affect a future system or a past system. but I don't have specific numbers currently. I just see that uh, there are projects that are popping up like that. This problem's happening now, and these projects are popping up, and they're making promises in the future because they can't make claims now because they're just coming about, and they need funding. And those are kind of the projects that I'm personally interested in. I mean, I'm interested in all projects that remove carbon, but I think that there's going to be some innovative tech that comes along that needs funding, and like there needs to be money thrown at them, and they're not able to capture carbon today, but they're able to capture carbon in the future. And that's really the focus is on this innovation field. Um, I hope
Can you
that helped answer that.
is that carbon is removed, especially through like innovation?
What was that question? I missed the
Uh,
beginning of it.
a little bit about how carbon is removed, or some of the new ways that people are coming up with to remove carbon and help offset environmental impact.
For sure. Yeah. So one of the projects we're interested in is like this project that sequesters carbon by embedding it into concrete. And so we think that concrete really just solidifies and gets stronger over time. So that's like a technological innovation rather than a natural innovation that would solve this. We're more focused on negative emission technologies. We think that those are more important at this point because they just already assume the kind of like mitigation factor. But that so stuff like that. There's a couple companies that are trying to like remove carbon from the air by using like your regular HVAC system, like that are already pulling air in. And I'm not necessarily talking to those companies. Those are just you asked about the general technology in the field. So I think that those are super cool. Of course, there's direct air capture, which is really just a unique situation because it requires so much energy, which means that you want to use energy to fund it, which means ultimately, like a lot of these energy systems run on natural gas and petroleum. But they're kind of the mindset of like, okay, we can capture 90% of the energy, the carbon produced through the energy. And then we could capture a certain amount through the DAX system, depending on how it's the direct air capture system, depending on how it's built. And between that, there would be a negative emissions. But at Carbon Blocks, we're a little skeptical of things that ultimately would just fund more petroleum companies. Like there's no reason to throw money at these petroleum companies. So there's all these different tech innovations that are popping up, but you have to look at the legitimacy of their claims, and like it's like they might be removing carbon, but like if you're giving money to these petroleum companies who are doing a tremendous amount of greenwashing and just I think you understand what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. I was actually going to be my next question, so I'm glad that you brought it up, because as you mentioned, it is an innovation, right? Instead of them just burning off the methane that they're producing, they're trying to actually use it to mine cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin
Right.
and stuff like that. But as you say, like the oil company that is making billions of dollars doesn't need the direct funding or the support from us. They're pretty much just trying to capitalize and help themselves make a little bit more money already. So they're not the people that need grants and the support from communities. They definitely don't have the same ethics that we're talking about in Dow Life. So yeah, I definitely am more in favor of people that are thinking locally. So I'm definitely glad that you brought that up, and 100% on that. For someone that might be wondering about like carbon impacts, can you talk a little bit about some of the effects of the carbon in our atmosphere and greenhouse gases and how they're impacting our lives and why it's important to take them seriously?
Sure. Yeah, there's I mean, it's like I just saw a news headline yesterday about like hottest recorded temperature. Like we're having heat waves all across the planet, which are ultimately caused by greenhouse gases. And main the discussion when people in the field kind of use the term carbon, it's a host of different molecules that are causing these effects. They're not just specific to CO2. It's methane. Yeah, as you said, methane before, and there's other CFCs like these fluorohydrocarbons, just different molecules that have we've synthesized or we've somehow figured out how to release into the atmosphere. And those molecules are first, as a human, like we immediately just see heating as an issue, and it's kind of fundamentally a negative feedback cycle, where these you get hotter, so you use more air conditioning, and then you use more air conditioning, which relies on the system that makes the planet hotter. So right there, you have an issue. But you're asking specifically about the effects. My biggest worry is like ocean acidification, which is causing just a complete collapse of our ocean ecosystems. And that has to do with the fact that the ocean is the largest carbon sink, and absorbed a tremendous amount of anthropomorphic carbon, just carbon that's been emitted by humans. So ocean acidification is causing a breakdown of our ocean ecosystems. The heat in our atmosphere is causing forest fires to happen. I saw that yesterday. Yellowstone in the U.S. just got devastated by just a host of, I don't know what to call it, sludging of some sort, but a weather impacts, and a lot of that has to do with the heating, which is causing the glacier to kind of run off too quickly, melt too quickly, which is that creates this deluge that's just coming down these mountains, and the ground can't soak it up enough, and it's devastating. Just like one of the, I've been to Yellowstone. It's just like one of the most beautiful things I've seen in my life. So we're seeing it there. Of course, there's like rising ocean tides, which is causing like cities to disappear like inch by inch off the coastal line. And yeah, there's just a host of major things, and like, but there's a lot we can do here. You were asking before about the innovative technologies. It was something that just kind of came across my desk that I thought was really cool a couple months ago. This project called Running Tide, which I'm not sure about the ultimate sequestration of, or the permanence is the term of seaweed, but it's interesting. A lot of these natural solutions might not absorb as much carbon or as quickly, but they provide a ecosystem effect that is also extremely important here. And what Running Tide does is they just grow kelp out in the ocean and they sink it down to the bottom, and it creates these beautiful kelp forests. I was interested in that again because I think the ocean is just a great place to start for all this. Um, but yeah, so that would allow for regeneration and carbon removal. So you'd have the carbon removal effect and you'd have ecosystem regeneration. Um, and I think people don't understand that, like specifically with the ecosystem collapse, that their food systems are gonna be in trouble, and the bean belt, like the central equator of this planet, is just gonna become uninhabitable at some point, and I fear it might be too soon, and I don't want to get drastic or any. I've seen charts from crazy people, I've seen charts from smart people. It's just kind of like how you take it. But it's definitely a pressing issue, and I'm seeing a lot of people interested in the idea of carbon removal and ecosystem regeneration, and it's actually it's nice that my generation is kind of coming around to these things.
Yeah, I myself live in California, so we've definitely seen a tremendous amount of fires, and it's due to 15 years of drought and lack of rains, and uh, even though we're right by the ocean, it's still very hot. So
Yeah.
things burn easily. Um, we also, I noticed that we've taken steps that separate our trash. So at least at certain points of California, we're no longer putting food waste in, and we're separating out that so that all of our food waste can be composted.
Yeah, I lived out there, and yeah, I California is very forward, and now I'm back on the East Coast, and it's just completely it just everyone just throws everything out. But yeah, it's I loved California, and I was discussing even moving back out there. That's the side note. Yeah, it's great what California is up to, just like leading the way on all these systems that need to be developed. Definitely. Um,
So, what is there a way that we can start using crypto to start lobbying and supporting local economies and local CO2 and local regenerative communities?
Yeah, there are, and I mean refi, and that's probably the big discussion today is regen and refi. Yeah, there's a lot of these DAOs popping up that I don't have specific names, but they're popping up now that are really coming together and trying to maybe it's agroforestry DAO I saw in the refi hackathon. I think that might be the name of it. They were trying to create like a local gardening, kind of just everyone works together and using DAO infrastructure to just to help community gardens, which I thought was really interesting. I think that's the name of it. But yeah, there are a host of methods popping up, but the overall architecture, if you're interested in stuff like that, is just hop into the refi Discord and look around because someone will immediately be like, "Yeah, I want to play around. I want to do that. I here's a project that'll help you." Um, and then there's just Regen Network, which is these are larger things at that point. Um, yeah.
Thank you so much. Can you just remind people a little bit more about Carbon Blocks, where to find you, where to hop in, and continue the conversation?
Yeah, sure. So we haven't opened up our Discord yet. We want everything kind of planned out before we do so. And hold on, I'm getting so yeah, they people want to reach out to us. They could be carbonblocks.co. We chose CO mainly because we thought it was cute because of the carbon monoxide idea, but it was um yeah, it is so carbonblocks.co. If you want to learn more about the tools that we're building, this is kind of our first unveiling. And that has a lot to do with our relationship with Revesture and Tommy. So feel free to go to we created a Twitter, and feel free to follow along. It's carbonblocks.co. And yeah, that's kind of where
Great.
you can
So
find us.
it was a pleasure to meet you,
You
touch a little
too.
more, and chat about carbon offsets. Yeah, I think it's a really important topic as we discussed. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for having me, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too. Happy Friday.
Yeah, have a good day.